Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. Inshallah, my voice is clear. Please just inform me if that's okay or not. Just waiting Jessica to join with us. Yes, she's there. She's stepping. We have a lot of questions to you, Jessica, regarding one of the hottest issues that it's already raised before a couple of years, but now it become one of the issues that we have to consider and put it in our mind. And yes, hi everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Hi everybody. Just waiting Jessica to join. She's in the way. I think she's joining us now. Yes. Here we go.
Hi,
Hi
everyone.
Jessica. Hi. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
I'm very good. Just sorry for late a little bit, 3 minutes and a half in my time
That's okay.
for some technical issues, but we are ready. So we have to be in the specific in time, and we have a lot of questions, Jessica. So you have to be
Yes.
ready. Okay. So first of all, especially for the new audience, Jessica, if you don't mind, just introduce a little bit about yourself in 1 minute. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I'm Jessica
Please.
Hannan. I am based in America, in Texas, and I own a studio that does brand identity design, and we base everything off of strategy. Been doing it for about 2 years now, doing full brand identity development. Before that, I was a self-taught graphic designer, freelancing, and that's how I got into branding. Is I was actually working in the ad department at a magazine and realized that some of the brands that I was building ads for, no matter how great of an ad I made, they were still losing money on their advertisement in that magazine because their brands hadn't been fully developed. They didn't know who their target markets were. And so instead of working for the magazine, I actually launched my own business helping those kinds of brands actually become successfully developed so that they could actually succeed in their different areas and in their different markets. So
Perfect. Perfect, Jessica. See, if we talk about rebranding, it's a lot of now talking about these definitions or these terminology. So everybody go to Google and just write rebranding. You can see tens of thousands of results.
sure.
And it's like in different definition. You can go, for example, economist. I think economist website. You can see a definition for that. You can go for Wikipedia. You see another definition. So there's no clear definition about not just about rebranding. It's about all these issues, about all these topics, about all these titles, especially maybe before 10 years or 15 or 20 years, especially in our region, MENA region especially. They're not aware a little bit about what's branding is. It's mixed up between branding and design and marketing. And just today, I went for a couple of rooms in Clubhouse, either in Arabic or English. They mixed up between when they're talking about branding, their intention that's mean marketing, not branding.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's difference between brand and branding. So before jump to the rebrand territory, we have to define what they call it back to basics. What's a brand? A lot of people say branding. So just what they call make it for dummies. Very simple. What's a
Yeah.
brand? What's a branding?
Totally. There's a lot, like you said, a lot of definitions out there. The one that I work off of, and I think you work off of as well, is Marty Neumeier's definition that says a brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization. So when we're talking about branding, developing brands, what we're actually talking about is curating emotions in that specific brand's customers, specific businesses' customers. So it's actually more about curating emotions in your customers related to how they feel about your company than it is about the visuals or the colors. People often talk about, well, our logo is a brand, or our, people come to me often and they'll be, we need a rebrand. And I start asking them what they mean by that. And typically they're like, well, we just don't like our logo. And I'm like, well,
Okay.
that's, not the same thing. So I think being clear that when we're talking about rebranding, brand identity, all of that, well, branding, we're talking about curating emotions in the customers. And then when we're talking about logos, colors, messaging, all of those things, those are actually just tactics that we use to achieve the end goal of the emotions in our customers.
Okay, because when go back to the brand gap by Martin Newman, when he said that thing, I think, I think it's an introduction pages talking about branding is just a gut feeling. Just take this two sentence, gut feeling, or we can say it's perception, or we can say it's reputation, or whatever that stick in what they call it in people's mindset. Okay, their perception about this brand. This perception itself, it contains a lot of items. So when people say, no, brand is not logo, it's wrong. Logo is part of a brand or the branding process. The same thing when talking about packaging, user experience, user interface, marketing, is all these pieces will create what they call it, the puzzle of the brand or branding. Okay.
Sure.
So my question is, when talking about a brand, or now, what's the difference? Just before my question, what's the difference between brand and branding? It's same or just matter of something like a little bit difference between them, or what's the difference if there's difference? I think there's different.
Yeah, so I think it's so funny because in the branding world, I think we can get very caught up in different terminology and different things. I think a lot of the things that we talk about are all interwoven. So when we're talking about brand versus branding, I would say branding, when I use the word branding, it's typically talking about the tactics that are used to achieve the desired brand. What we're doing. So even in English branding, we talk about it. And typically when we use it, we're talking about a verb, like an action. And it's the tactics that we're using to achieve the desired emotions in our target market. And then the brand itself are those emotions that we're trying to curate. What do you think?
Okay. So it's branding is more an actional level, whereas brand is more in strategic or thinking level. We can put it in this type of point of view, maybe, because when I read a couple of definition, it's like a different. Everybody have his own perception about this definition, and that's make us as designer / brand strategic plus who's brand manager, etc. This type of clarity that put us to digging more about what's brand and what's branding. But for SMEs or for a business owner or for entrepreneurs, they don't care about that, and there's excuse for them because it's not their field, there's not their passion. At the end of the day, and at the end of the day, they want something practical. But just before go to the practical, we have to define, we have to digest the definition of these terminologies because it will affect in our communication. When I sit with the client and talking about branding, but he's thinking about marketing, it will become like miscommunication. The same thing when I talk with somebody about brand, but he talking about branding. So we have another miscommunication. So I think, as you say, is branding is more tactical. It's more, they call it call to action. It's more something that what they call touch points to the customers direct, either visual or user experience or content that they will engage with. So that will be in that level, the branding. Whereas the brand is the DNA, the core, which is you can define the values, the positioning, all these things related to brand. Whereas the branding is more, as you say, more tactical. So how we can take that core and make it more practical for customers. And that's why, for example, design is part of branding process.
Right.
even we call it brand visual identity, but in the practical level, it's branding, you know. So for example, if you have brand and branding logo, it will be under which one? Under both of them. So you cannot distinguish. You go, no, a logo is under branding, not under brand. So it's not that complicated. Anyhow, I know it's debatable about this issue because there are a lot of articles, a lot of videos talking about what's the difference. But what our aim in this conversation is to, number one, just to, what they call it, define in simple words what's a brand, what's a branding. Then later on, we have to go for rebranding, because we cannot talk about rebranding and all of us, we don't know what the brand and branding is. So we have to come back to basic. So when talking about brand, hi Hashim. So when talking about the brand and branding, so we have to define it, you know, in a simple word. Of course, there's Martin Newmar, there's Fabian talking about brand and branding in his book. There's Chris Doe, there are a lot of people talking about brand and branding. Just what we need, Jessica, this is my second question, is how we can deliver the meaning of brand and branding to our customers. When we talk about customers, either entrepreneurs in that level or to the end user. So we have two types of customers. One-to-one, which is entrepreneurs or government, semi-government, our clients, okay?
Yeah.
And we have another one, which is the end user, the target audience. How we can deliver the meaning of brand and branding and how it's affecting in their business. And they have to know whether it's a difference or no. It's not make sense for them. At the end of the day, they want to deliver whatever that, what they call it, address their objectives in their business. And that's it. So what do you think?
So the question is, how can we successfully deliver what branding is to our clients?
Yes.
So, well, one, it is important because ultimately branding as we know it and developing brands well has a extremely high impact on how successful that business or product is in the market. And so and that's how I present it to clients. And so when I'm talking to entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, when I'm explaining how I approach branding and what it is and why strategy is important, and I can't just deliver a logo, but we have to go through a whole strategy session. When I'm sharing that, I put myself in their shoes and I say, okay, what are their goals? What are they trying to achieve? Well, are they trying to, expand their markets? Are they trying to reach a different audience? Are they trying to, have an increased ROI? How am I going to get them there? And how does branding and the importance of brand development relate to their goals? So I'm always putting what I need to communicate in and through a lens that they can understand and that's actually important to them. So practically, if I'm talking to a business owner or an entrepreneur who's come to me and they're saying, hey, we need a logo, I'll say, okay, well, why do you need a logo? And we talk through a little bit more deeply what their goals are associated with the logo. I try to do a lot less explaining or convincing than I do consulting, which is just asking questions and helping them understand that what they're really trying to do. Typically, when someone says, oh, we need a logo, they're trying to communicate value to their audience. And when we talk through that, we're asking, well, what kind of values are you trying to communicate? And typically it's at that point when they're like, oh, well, we're not really clear on those things. And that's when I explain to them how walking through a strategy session and doing that type of thing can affect their brands for the better. Okay,
perfect. Because just I read a little bit of a report here. That's why I'm just looking.
Sorry, say again.
While you're talking, I just read a little bit like small report talking about the brand and branding, global. This is, I think, it's mandatory for us, either designer or small agencies or studio to define it in a clear way. Why? Because now we're talking about rebranding, for example. When talking with the client, rebranding, he mean redesign. It's not meaning rebranding. And this is my second question. What's the difference between rebranding because in this session I will ask, so I will not answer, no comment. I try my best. Just questions. What's the difference between rebrand, redesign, and facelift, and repositioning? It's a lot.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot there. Well, I'll just start with the facelift versus the rebranding. So I actually asked you about this the other day. I was like, I've never heard this
Yeah,
term, and I assumed
yeah.
it had to do with refining a visual identity, which is
Yes.
the logo, color schemes, all of that. With that, you can go through a facelift and refine the visual identity if the brand values, the market, and the positioning are already clarified.
Okay.
So but I would say rarely does a company approach a refinement of their visual identity without refining those initial values, target markets, positioning, all of that.
Okay. So the facelift is more about the visual treatment for the brand identity. That's the facelift, right? Just correct
Yeah.
me, Jessica. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the difference now between redesign? Maybe redesign. Maybe it's facelift. Maybe not. So it will be it's open discussion, guys. So everybody have questions or comments, please just feel free, because it's not the lecture here. So everybody can welcome. So because I think, because we talk facelift, that's mean we have a brand identity, we have to enhance that visual, either in font, colors, scale, whatever that related to visual identity itself. We have redesign. So maybe redesign, it's bigger than facelift. Redesign, maybe we totally change, maybe more than 50% of of the logo, maybe. But what about the rebrand? And every rebrand equal repositioning or not? Because I just read a couple of articles, and there's a huge debate about this. Is rebrand equal repositioning? Yes or no?
I think this is one of those times where it becomes so semantically driven, because rebranding includes repositioning and repositioning includes rebranding, although rebranding is not repositioning and repositioning is not rebranding. So,
Okay.
so what I'm meaning is that I forget what kind of chart it is, but they intersect. They're not separate.
Okay.
And so I think rebranding has a lot to do with repositioning. And when we're talking about positioning, we're talking about identifying the specific place that a business takes in a customer's mind. So it seems so ethereal, but we're talking about how a specific business or product it occupies space in the target market's mind.
Okay, I will give you just
that clearly?
Yeah, I will give you two examples from US, which is General Motors and Burger King, when they doing the rebranding. What we call it, rebranding. For example, General Motors, they changed their strategy, as I read the article that said, because they are looking for electrical motors, cars in the future, especially with all this competition from Tesla, etc., etc. So they want to repositioning themselves as future options for electrical car. That's why that reflects in their rebranding. So in General Motors case, yes, rebrand equal repositioning. Okay, what about Burger King? It's like, for example, they come up with like a different taste, different new products, something wow from out of space, recipes. It's same products, maybe like different package, maybe different. So maybe it's not repositioning. Maybe yes. I don't know, because like different cases. So it's not like we have like one template, and it will be applied for all our cases here. So what do you think between General Motors rebranding and Burger King rebranding?
Yeah, well, at least with the Burger King rebrand, one of the articles I had read was that they did reposition in some way. When they redid their logo and even their messaging is actually refined, and they've started saying, I forget what the tagline is, but it's talking about simple ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
And how fast food doesn't have to mean like bad food or something like that. And so that is repositioning. They're going
Okay.
from being this greasy, cheap, like burger that nobody wants to eat, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in the market, to saying, hey, we're actually made with good ingredients, and we're not an unhealthy option. Which for Burger King, that is a huge space of at least my own opinion is they did reposition in their rebrand. And so, and even that's reflected in their new logo and visual identity. It's much more clean, simple, which communicates so much of that simplicity of ingredients. And yeah, I see Soraya
Soraya Saha.
there
Yeah.
said it's definitely repositioning, and I think I totally agree with that. So
So.
again, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that rebranding can necessarily be separated. I don't think repositioning and rebranding can be separated from each other. I think when designers or brand strategists try to do that, typically they're, to me, I don't know, but when I've been in conversations like that, it feels so semantically driven, like a conversation that only strategists would care about. And
Do you, yeah.
I love brand strategists. I am a brand strategist. You're a brand strategist, but I think that's a conversation that we get into when we're, you know, just around strategy nerds, and no one else actually cares
No,
about
it's
it
okay
that much.
because part of our audience here is like passionate about brand strategy. Like for example, Hisham and Hadil and Soraya, all of them are specialists in branding.
Yeah.
Because, do you know? Just recap again. I think because we are feeling trapped because of, I call it mass mind that's surrounding us. I will give you just examples from our local. Okay. Hashim said, yes, it's pointless to rebrand without. Thank you, Hashim. So we are on the same page. I will give you some examples, and Hashim knew about that. For example, banks or semi-government or even big business, when they claim that they rebrand their business or rebrand, their brand. In fact, they are not rebranding. They don't redesign more than rebranding. Because if you just change the logo, that's not mean you do rebranding. Even some of the definition from, I think, economist, New York economists, they define that change the visual identity, blah, 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 blah. I think it's wrong definition. It's not right. Because that will be under the definition of facelift or redesign. But
Sure.
don't call yourself you doing a rebrand, because rebrand is related. It's not related. It's the core of repositioning. Rebrand
Sure.
is the face of the spirit or the soil of repositioning. So
Yeah.
because we see different examples. For example, if we like open a new entity or in new companies, or for example, new companies, they already exist in the market, maybe like new offices, and they say we have like a new brand, we rebrand our business. It's correct, it's right to say that we are doing rebranding, whereas the same user experience, the same products, the same everything same. You just face what they call it, face off. Just you change your face only, but you are the same person. You
Yeah.
change your clothes, but you are the same person. So
Sure.
how would this become like a clear for all of us that there's a difference between rebranding and redesign?
Yeah, well, I think the definition of rebrand as, you know, changing the logo or changing the visual identity, it's just proof, like you said, that there's some lack of understanding
Mm-hmm.
in the business world. And I think it's our responsibility as strategists to clearly communicate. And I think it starts with designers and strategists clearly communicating to our clients, who are these companies who are coming to us, you know, needing a new logo or whatever, I think it's on our shoulders to help educate business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders within organizations that rebranding really isn't necessarily just about the visuals. And we have to start talking about the visuals as being a tactics that we use to achieve the desired goal, which is the curated emotions within our customers. And so, yeah, for me, I mean, that was my story. Was I was, you know, doing all of these tactically driven projects that were, you know, I need a new logo or I need new colors or whatever the thing was. And I found myself living in this tension where I'm like, I know that you have business goals, and the logo isn't going to solve those. So I think as long as we are sharing and educating our consumers with through a lens that they can understand, that the brand values, the repositioning, all of that is actually going to help them achieve their business goals, they're going to listen. Yeah.
So as Soraya said, I think her comments valid 100% regarding that, the mindset that they don't understand what's the difference between rebranding and repositioning, and that's in fact that affect in what they call it in our definition of this terminology, which is assets in this industry. For example, if CEO of this company, he don't know what's the difference between rebranding and repositioning and redesigning and facelift. Come on, how we can take a decision? Okay, we do like a rebrand. Come on, no, it's not rebrand. You do just a redesign. You facelift, maybe you whatever that you call it, but just don't call it rebranding, because if big company, for example, they claim in the PR, we doing a rebrand. So what do you think about designers, about, you know, creative studios? They will get like a bad perception, a bad experience, a bad reality about this type of terminology. Is like it's upside down. So everybody can go and Google it and see the basic definition of this. But unfortunately, in reality, as Soraya said, that a lot of clients, they don't know that, because the rebranding, when we change your logo, is the last stage of rebranding, because rebranding starts with repositioning. It will be a lot of stages. At the end, it will be the visual identity you have to change.
Right.
But people, they will see the what they call it, the first contact, which is the visual identity. And that's why most of the business owners, they don't care about, maybe they don't care, maybe they don't aware about the repositioning. They're focused 100% about what's seen by their customers, which is the visual. So 100% they're focused about the visual more than the core itself. So that's I think there's a lot of comments. I want to read it because rebrand is the result of repositioning. Thank you, Soraya. Hashim, usually because I can't see it here. Usually this. Can you read it from Hashim when he say, because I can't see it from the reflection.
Usually the slightest shift of market and business models cause to rebrand.
Okay, what else we have? Okay, good. There's another comments from Sarai. Depends on the objective, could be refreshing the look. Okay, so that's what we have to make it clarify between facelift, redesign, and repositioning. So we agreed now, Jessica, that rebrand equal repositioning. So repositioning, the end result of repositioning as a visual communication is rebrand, right? I don't know. I'm just asking questions here.
Is the visual communication called the rebrand?
No, I said that the end results that customers can see from repositioning is the visual changes in the visual identity. What we call it now, the rebranding.
Yeah, which makes so much sense that when entrepreneurs or these clients come to us and they're confused about what rebranding is, it's not so crazy to think that they would think that it's a new visual identity. And so to me, it's so funny because I don't feel frustrated by this conversation at all when I have it with when I have it with potential customers, because it actually helps me gauge whether I want to work with someone depending on how they respond to me sharing about what rebranding is. If I share about rebranding and explain what repositioning is and what rebranding is and the ways we would go about doing that, if I share that with them and they still just say, I need a new logo, that's great. I don't want to work with that person. So it's so funny because sometimes I hear a lot of frustration about these businesses don't understand, or these clients, they don't care about the values. And I would say, I would say that's like probably 50% of the people that approach me are just looking for a logo. And when they come and they don't understand about rebranding and they don't want to give that much thought into it, it actually is helpful to me as a strategist, because I can actually realize like, oh, that person doesn't understand why what we do is important and how it will actually affect the trajectory of their lives. So I actually use this conversation as a filter for my clients or potential clients to see if I want to work with them.
That's what you said before that.
That's
what you said before that. We have to educate our clients regarding these things because it's basic. Because if we don't educate them, that will be the mass mind for a wrong direction related to these topics.
Totally.
So the next generation will be rebranding. It's just do like a new logo. That's it. It's wrong.
Totally.
So we have to educate them. So from this point, Jessica, my follow question is, when we have to do rebranding? When? So we know, okay, now what's the definition for rebranding? What is repositioning? And why we need repositioning? I think this question, it will be answering many questions related to rebranding. Why we need rebranding? Why and when?
Yeah, I think when we're looking through the lens of that definition of a brand being these curated emotions in our customers, if at any point the tactics that we're using to achieve those feelings become confusing, not effective in communication, then it's time. Or if there's lack of clarity around what emotions we're trying to achieve in our target market or who our target market is. But a rebrand should only ever be done with business goals in mind. It should never be done purely based on aesthetics, if that makes sense. Okay. So yeah, we're always thinking through business goals through a rebrand. We're not looking at, do we like this color? Do we not like this color? Unless that is affecting the perception of how our desired target market is receiving the brand.
Yeah, I think because maybe rebranding, the cause is it's coming from two ways, either internal or external. Internal, for example, if they want to change, for example, the business, they want to change their policy, their positioning, their values, which is very hard. It's not easy to change your positioning. But that's why a couple of companies and the branding, they do rebranding. When we say rebranding, is not necessarily we have to change everything. For example, how many times Coca-Cola do rebrand their logo? Just an example. We're talking about logo, comparing with Pepsi. Okay, Pepsi is more than Coca-Cola. Okay, when talking, for example, about Adidas, they changed their logo, which is the visual thing. So with big brands like these brands, for example, Adidas or even Apple. So did Apple change their positioning? I know I come back to square one again, talking about rebranding and repositioning, because there are a lot of different case studies. When you put it in your table, you cannot see it's all in one color. I mean, for example, when you put Apple a brand identity, when they change their brand, did they change their positioning? I don't know. When you put Adidas, When you put, for example, General Motors is clear, it's changing their positioning. For example, Disney. Okay, so did all these big brands, they did like a repositioning when they do what we call it now, rebranding or design? 100% sure about that? My answer is I'm not sure 100%, because each case study, it need, maybe it's like different issues they have. So if I don't know, because we cannot generalize that rebrand equal 100% repositioning. Maybe it's not rebranding. Maybe, as Suraya said, it's just facelift. Maybe it's like redesign. So that's why we have to use the right terminology. Because if you don't use the right terminology, that will mess up everything. Oh, no, I'm talking about rebranding. Go and see Apple, same positioning. Go to see Adidas, same positioning. They change their logo, so they don't rebrand. No, wrong. They don't do rebrand, they do facelift.
Yeah.
You get my point? They do redesign.
Sure.
So we have to put all these things, in their right place. So when talking about why we need rebranding. So, for example, I have a small business for 16 years. So every 10 years I have to redesign. Rebrand. See, I fell in the trap again. So we have to do a rebranding. I mean, there's like a timeline for that. That's number one. Second, when I have to do it and why? Because, for example, there are huge competitors. Oh, that's time now to show off. Yeah, to show off time. Okay, I will do a rebranding. So everybody, like a new look and feel, So maybe that's like another excuse for my target audience to recognize me again, among all this noisy market. So what make me as a business owner, I will now, what they call it, I put the business hat now. What make me do rebranding? If, for example, I still in the business for 5 years plus, when and why I have to do a rebranding?
Yeah,
that's my question.
Yeah, I think it's different for every business, depending on what problems they're facing.
Okay.
Because when I think through rebranding, it's just a means to an end of creating solutions for business problems. So one of the companies I walked through a rebrand process with this past a few months ago, they had found themselves in a space where they didn't feel like they were able to communicate with their target market the things that they were trying to achieve. And when they hired me, we didn't change the logo or anything. I refined the colors for them. Well, we did refine the logo, but it doesn't look much different. And but what we did was we clarified who they were trying to talk to, how they needed to be talking to those customers in order to engage with them in a way that customer could receive, and we refined their messaging. And so with that was an instance where, and out of that, their social media platform has grown quite substantially, and they were doing social media before, but they were not talking in a way that their customers could receive it. And so that rebrand was about connecting them more effectively to their desired target market. And so that's one example of why a company would need to do that. But I mean, it could be a lot of different things. If you have a product that has previously been perceived as middle of the road as far as quality goes, and your product is actually a luxury product, it's time to rebrand, because that isn't what is being perceived by your target market.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jessica, because now we have what they call it like a different scenario. The first scenario is when my positioning is perfect in my market. There is no internal or external factor that grab me, to do like rebranding, which is repositioning. In this case, maybe I have to do something new in my visual identity, just to make it more recognizable, more presentable, In this case, we have to put that label, which is facelift or redesign. But if we do, for example, as you said, where I have new products, I have like new markets I want to go, I want to open, I have like a new competitor coming in the market, I have a new CEO, this is like internal factor, like he put like a new vision or something, which is all these factors that will affect in your positioning, because business should be like a water, liquid, flexible. Whatever that there's a factors, I have to adjust myself. Otherwise, there's no business like a rock, stone. Right. Should be like a water. So in this case, that will be the rebranding, which is equal repositioning. Otherwise, if I'm satisfied with my positioning, everything is fine, but I will do what they call it facelift, because of, as I told you before, about become more presentable, become more recognizable among other competitors. Okay, that will be facelift. We have, I think, we have to distinguish, because I just get inspired from what you're saying now. I just come up with the conclusion. Maybe we have to distinguish between facelift and redesign, which is the positioning. There's no change in positioning, which it will be the result will be facelift and redesign. But if you want to change your positioning as a brand positioning, the result will be rebranding. But at the end of these two scenarios, it seems similar to the end users. Why? Because they will see what? They will see the visual.
Right.
At the first point. But later on, they will discover it's redesign it will be facelift or rebranding. From where? From user experience.
Yeah, that's true.
Because,
I agree with
for
that.
For example, if a bank, for example, do like a new logo. Okay, maybe they are in my country for 20 years and they want to, facelift or redesign or rebrand or whatever. The same surface as it is. Just pick the phone. You have to stay, wait. Their treatment is not that in that level. So whatever they want to change, they will not change the mindset, in our target audience, which is affect again about the brand definition, which is about perception, about the gut feeling. So they do nothing. They just, change the signage and the same product, the same people, the same experience, everything the same inside. But they, what they call it, just change the label in the can. But whatever inside the can, same. So I think I agree with 100% regarding that. We have now to redefine what's repositioning, which is a rebranding, and facelift. Why mixed up? Because at the end of the journey, same. I mean, from the end user, with customer's point of view, they will see the new logo. So it's like a new logo. Oh yeah, new logo, rebranding. So that's confusion is happening. So by the way, one of the questions already you answered a couple of questions from a couple of points I have. Anyhow, so how to do a rebranding? There's like a process to do a rebrand. Now talking about rebranding, no facelift, no redesign. خلاص, take it, put it aside. Now we're talking about rebranding, which is repositioning as a designer or as a studio. What usually the process we have to go as a steps if we do rebranding?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends if a business is going to be doing it internally, like if they're going to keep it in-house, or if they're, contracting a business. So I think it can look a lot of different ways. If, if I were giving advice to an entrepreneur, or am I talking to entrepreneurs and business owners, or am I talking to strategists and designers?
Okay. For both now, because our target is now both.
Challenge.
For a designer, what will be the process for them? And just before that, for entrepreneurs or for business owners, if they want to decide, okay, this is my repositioning. So what the step they have to go through before they do, before they delegate this task, either internal or external?
Totally. So I think with, I'll speak to the entrepreneurship or entrepreneurs, business owners first. I would say identifying clearly what problems you're trying to solve with the rebrand is the very first step of the rebrand. Because if if the company itself isn't clear on what problems they're experiencing and what they're trying to achieve, the rebrand probably isn't going to be that successful for them, because if you don't know what problem you're trying to solve, it's really hard to create effective solutions. So I would say that's the first part. Second part is, talk through, if I were an entrepreneur, I would find if you can't do it in-house, find a contractor, a strategist who is either just a strategist or a designer who does strategy, and allow them and their expertise to lead you in the process, because there's so many amazing strategists out there. You, me, Hashem, lots of people on this call. There's, and I think everybody has their own process for how they lead clients through that. So I think as long as entrepreneurs are finding a strategist or a designer who does strategy to help lead and guide them through that process, you're just kind of jumping on with what the systems and the processes that those strategists have already created. So I think that is a great, a good thing about contracting it out to someone, is that you're going to someone who already has effective systems in place for leading clients through that. If you're taking it in-house, it becomes a lot more complicated, because you're having to build those systems and then implement them as well. And so I always, tell people, if you can contract it out, if you can hire someone who's an expert in this industry to come in and help you, that is key. And then for designers and strategists, I think we're probably all on the same page of, like, we have to start with vision and mission and where the company is actually going, and identify where the end goal is. And then out of that place of understanding where the business is trying to go, we have to figure out who we need to communicate with in order to get there, and the values that we need to be communicating to that market in order to get them on board with us.
Perfect. Because I draw a little bit like small structure here. I know it's like it will be reflect.
Yes.
Okay, it's talking about brand values first, because this is the core. Without values, you don't have that loyalty. You cannot create what call it Simon Sinek, your own tribe for your brand, which is, for example, we have Apple's tribe. They have loyal, they have the same values. From brand value, have like brand positioning, because you have values. Based on values, you can position yourself. And after that, as Nabil just he wrote something here talking about user experience is the key. Yes, part of the user experience is repositioning. Part of the repositioning is what we call it now redesign or facelift. It's all part of user experience. User experience is not just a treatment one-to-one. It's through the marketing, through the brand identity, through products and services. User experience is a huge part of it, which we call it. So at the end, it will be at the surface, it will be the brand identity visual. But most of the people talking about rebranding, they focus always about the surface of this. Why I'm drawing this? Because this just summary of your answer regarding the process. Because me as a designer or me as entrepreneur, if I don't know what's the steps, what's the core values, what will be the layers, or the pages in my brand book, I cannot go forward. I cannot recognize this is right or this is wrong regarding the visual identity, regarding the repositioning itself. I think Hashim said good strategists are also good. Yes, 100%. 100% Hashim, because we can't say I'm a strategic without figure out what's a weakness, what the strength, what's potential PowerPoint, which is SWOT analysis, and more than that. Of course, 100% agree with you, Hashim. So now talking about the process, I know it's taking too much, details regarding of what will be the process inside, or outside. And as entrepreneur or as a designer, we have to know these values or this procedure. Without it, based on what I can do, for example, this new logo. When you go, for example, to General Motor, yeah, of course, they say, yeah, see, this means related to electrical, related to future. And by the way, some people say it's like an elephant. When you go to General Motor, it's like a small elephant. I know. So I think we have to come back to basics. We have to recognize more, and before do any action from from internally as an entrepreneur or as a designer, we have to know what they call it, the basic definition of all this terminology, because without that we'll mess up everything and we will use it in the wrong way, as I told you before. And even as a designer, when you go to, for example, to designers and their portfolio, he or she write rebrand, blah 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 blah. It's not about rebranding. Maybe he's just facelift, maybe redesign, because at the same company they don't change their positioning and they just change their logo. That will be redesign, not rebrand. But we use it in the wrong way because of what? Because it's like, it's like a mastermind in our terminology, in our media, and in our social media. So I think we have to come back just to basic and use it in the right way. I think there's a question here. Why rebranding go wrong sometimes and how to assist rebranding? Good question. Go ahead, Jessica. Why rebranding go wrong sometimes? Okay.
I think part of it is what you just shared, is a misunderstanding of the goals, the vision, and how to get there. And so rebranding, some companies, when they go through a rebranding process, it's a total flop. And the English term flop, I don't know if it that's a thing, but it's like means it goes bad. And I think part of that is having a misunderstanding of the goals and the values and the vision initially, and a misunderstanding of who the target market is and how they're going to receive the certain tactics that you're building. So a lot of times with rebranding, when something is a flop or it doesn't work out, what I've noticed is it's actually not necessarily the rebranding as far as the vision and values go, but sometimes it's a miss when it comes to the actual visual identity that's been built, or the messaging that doesn't actually align clearly with the values of the target market. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think. But the second is how to assist rebranding. So the first part talking about why rebranding go wrong sometimes, as we agreed now, because of misunderstanding about what's rebranding. Maybe they don't define from the first step what's their values, what their target audience, what their challenge, and why they want to repositioning. Because if they define what's their repositioning, of course the result will be rebranding. Okay. Yep. But because of they see, for example, the competitor, they see, okay, it's like a trend, become like a trend. Everybody knows the rebranding. Yes, yalla, I'll go ahead, with them. Oh, okay, house, we'll do the same thing, which is rebranding, it's not rebranding, it's redesign. So they don't know. That's why I think the answer is they're going wrong because of their perception about rebranding is wrong. Their perception about rebranding is equal redesign, which is 100% wrong.
Yeah,
the result will be disaster. I do rebranding and I don't get the results. Come on, no, you just do facelift, redesign, whatever you name it. You just change the label of what they call it, the brand identity, with all respect of designers. We can't blame designers because this is more strategic, more than designers, what they call it, task.
Yeah.
The brand is strategic. As Hashim said, we have to become more that we have that ability to diagnosis. Based on that, we have that full report, with all that, titles in details about brand positioning, brand archetype, brand persona, brand tone of voice, all these things. If we have like in a full report, based on that, the end result, we bring this to designer, okay, and he have to digest the brand strategic a little bit, so he can translate it visually. So it's not just about come up with like a new logo because we shift to from this market to that market, or because, for example, we have 20 years now. Okay, after 20 years, we need like a new logo. Yeah. Okay, it's a new logo, but it's not rebranding. It's not repositioning. Right. So I think this perception is wrong because of we don't aware about the basic again. We have to just back to basics, as simple as that. Without that, it will be all our usage of this terminology. It will be wrong with time in our articles, in our communication, in our dialogues, and everything. So with time, rebrand equal redesign. Khalas. All generation, they stick the, this terminology equal this definition, which is wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as we are educating the people, the entrepreneurs, the business owners, CEOs that we know, I think we're going to start seeing people understand the value of strategy and why it's important. And I also think there's still going to be people who don't get it. And that's okay.
I think we have to discuss maybe later on talking about who's brand strategy, because like become like a trend, I'm brand strategic. No, come on, who's the brand strategy? And they mixed up between brand strategic with the designer strategic. Sure. There are like a lot of terms are mixed up again. We have to simplify things. Without simplify such as this terminology, all our business or our efforts, it will be a wrong way, a wrong direction.
Yeah.
And when we see all these things, no, all our work is just a facelift or redesign. It's not related at all to repositioning. I don't know what the repositioning is as a designer. I don't care, because just doing it like a design, logos only. So we have to educate, and that's what we are trying now between me and you, just to highlight some basic definition to our target audience. And from that, they have to do the call to action in terms of they have to go to read more, discuss more. We have like huge platforms, Twitter, Facebook, now we have Clubhouse. We have to digging more and more and more and lead by examples. Without that, we can't educate ourselves, and that will affect in us either designers or entrepreneurs or etc. etc. So I think we complete 1 hour. Yes, because I'm watching my clock here. It's almost 1 hour. If anybody have any questions or comments, thank you, Soraya. Thank you, Hashim, for your comments. Usually you are supporting us. Thank you, both of you, Soraya and Hashim. So if anybody have any questions, please go ahead. Otherwise, the last word for you, Jessica, if you can summarize our topic, which is what is the, I know we have come back again to the introduction again, but it's okay. What's the rebranding and why we need it? That's it.
Yeah, I mean, rebranding is clarifying the vision, values of the core of the company, and sometimes that results in refining the visual identity or building a new one. But like we've said multiple times, refining the visual identity or going through a facelift is not necessarily what we would use the term rebrand for. And I would say, just to further clarify, if a business is having trouble with reaching their target market, understanding how they're communicating with those, like you said, if they get a new CEO or if there's a vision change within the company, then the expression of that vision needs to be clear across all of the touch points with the audience, whether that's their logo and colors and visual identity, or their their customer experience, you know, their service providing, any of that needs to change. Because, I mean, it's just, I think of rebranding also as a person, you know, if a person represents a brand and they've gone through a massive internal shift in their mind or in their heart, they're going to want to express that clearly to everyone that they communicate with.
Right.
And so maybe that means that their wardrobe changes. Maybe that means their hairstyle changes. But whatever it is, it needs to be consistent across all of the platforms.
Perfect. Perfect. Just in a nutshell, that's thank you again, Jessica, the second time, you know, to do an interview with you in live IG. And just my small advice to everybody, just go read, go explore more about these basic things, which is affect either in entrepreneurs level or in designers level or in decision makers level. Rebranding is not only change your logo. Rebranding is rethink and redo and relook again to your positioning, to your values, because if you change if you change the core, of course, you know, what they call it, the outside the core, it will change. But what unfortunately what we are seeing here, a couple of branding happening, is they changing the face, but the core is the same. So they claim they doing their rebranding. No, you are doing redesign, doing facelift, name it whatever that name that fit with this with this task, but it's not rebranding.
Right.
If you want to rebranding, you have to relook again from in to out. But what we see as an end user, we just see the outside of logo, fancy things. No, it's not. The rebranding, the core is what I call it human-centric design. If you want to change your values should be tied with your target audience, with their feeling, with their emotion. So from that, we can carry on and do the next step, which is the other point of contact with your customers, which is visual identity and etc. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Hashim. You always support us. And there's like a last question. I didn't get it from Sayyid Ali Hussein. He said, "What is the change may happen to the branding philosophy?" I don't get it. If you can just elaborate it or say it again. Thank you, Hashim, for your support. You always, mashallah alayk, supporting us, you and Soraya. And thank you, Ali. Ali, he's my brother, by the way. Thank you, Ali.
Ali,
thank you, Ali.
Jafar, can you teach me how to say thank you? Oh,
shukran.
Shukran.
Shukran lakum. Shukran lakum.
Shukran alaikum.
وعليكم شكرا لكم تودين ورا الشمس
شكرا لكم
شكرا لكم yes thank you
thank you guys
thank you Jessica, see you مع السلامة
all right
see you
see you
see you bye